Hi, everybody. So as soon as somebody gets on, please let me know if you can hear me. I am live streaming this on YouTube, so this will be available on YouTube for playback. On Instagram, I'm going to save this live and then just put it in as an IGTV. So you'll also be able to play this back. So if you can on YouTube and on Instagram, please share this live so that people can see it. And it's right 1 o'clock on the dot. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I did provide all of you, in case you're going to follow along with me, the recipe for these chocolate chip cookies. And if you've been on my channel before, we have done chocolate chip cookies before several times. I believe one of them was a fail. This one is a slightly different recipe because the result is going to be a chunkier cookie. And if this works, or if this turns out how we want it to in the future, yes, you can hear me, and yes, you can hear me. So in the future, I want to show you or teach you how to make stuffed cookies. So the thick cookies that you can stuff in the center, that's the end goal. But for today, what I went ahead and did is I already started to preheat my oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I do have an electric oven, so that might vary on how cookies bake. I used to work with a gas oven or a gas stove, so just keep that in mind. Make a note of that, and this recipe will be written down in the description box below. So Jackie, can you hear me on YouTube? I was gonna say Facebook. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This time I didn't pre-measure any of my ingredients because I wanna show you exactly how I do it, because I have gotten a few messages regarding butter and how the butter that you put out at room temperature was too squishy and you just want yours to look exactly like mine. So I'm gonna show you exactly how I measure my ingredients and the entire process. So let me just scoot this back so that you're able to see in both places. But what we're going to start with, and I don't know if I mentioned this already, but for the purposes of the video, and so that you're not, just sitting here for 4 hours watching me do this whole process. Last night I did half of the batch of these cookies. So today I'm doing the other half, just for the sake of speeding up the video so that you can see exactly everything that we're doing in the result. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add half a cup of brown sugar, and make sure that this is very well packed in, firmly packed into your measuring cup. Anytime I'm doing baking, I like to use a smaller either cup or a smaller spoon or something to scoop in the ingredient that I'm measuring, so not just go straight in and just pack it on, because sometimes that will give you wrong measurement and it's going to give you a different result than the recipe calls for. So I have half a cup of brown sugar. I also didn't know how to start this live because I haven't been live in a while. I've been moving around, so I was kind of nervous as to how I was going to start this, and I was going to tell y'all that I moved and all that stuff, but I know that you're here for the recipe. I probably will update you guys on everything that's been going on a different video. So next I'm adding in the granulated sugar, and for me I'm doing a 1/4 cup, but if you're doing the entire recipe, follow the measurements on the recipe. Like I said last night, I made half a batch so that I could have some ready so I could throw it in the oven and show you the result. So I have half a cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup, sorry, a 1/4 cup. And then this brings me to the next step, which is the butter. Usually on my recipes, I've asked you to use room temperature butter. For this specific purpose, I left my butter in the refrigerator to show you the different technique that we're using today. So I'm going to take that out of the refrigerator. And we're going to use this butter, not completely cold, but let me just go ahead and cut how much I need for this recipe. 4, 5, 6.5. 6.5. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't know if the person that asked about the butter is watching this live, but so that you don't run into the problem of your butter being too runny or too squishy, I don't know what the word is, too room temperature, use it straight from the refrigerator. So I'm going to cut it into small cubes like it says on the recipe. And if you're just coming in and you're following along with the recipe, we did go ahead and place our oven to preheat at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm using an electric oven in case that makes a difference for anyone. So the importance of cutting this into small squares, you'll see it in a few minutes, but I know that some recipes call for completely melted butter. This case, we're going to leave it in these tiny little squares, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So I should have probably cut this before the video started, but you know what, girl. Okay, so we have our butter in tiny cubes, and we're going to pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds. Make sure that you don't walk away from the microwave because you might forget that it's in there. And like I did, I just pressed the 30-second thing, but okay, I did 12 seconds. And now you're gonna see that it still looks like cubes. So I'm going to throw that in here. And if you're doing the full recipe, you'll follow the exact same steps. Do the entire amount of butter for no longer than 12 seconds because then you start getting melted butter. So now we're going to start mixing this. This is the part that's very important. Can you guys still hear me? We want this to, hi Danny. Hi everybody, hi Ren. So in this part of the process, you're going to want for your sugars and your butter to mix for approximately 5 minutes. And also at this point is when we're going to add our egg. Our egg is at room temperature. The only thing that was not at room temperature is the butter. And I just went ahead and cracked the egg right in there. And I'm going to crank up the speed. Hi everyone. Okay. And as you can tell, I did move. I'm back in Texas, and I actually love the layout of this kitchen a lot more than any of the kitchens that I've had because of this center island. Mommy said hi. Tell Mommy I said hi. My little sister's watching, and my mom is probably watching too. But so in this part, you're going to notice that the butter is not going to melt and it's not going to become fluffy, but that is exactly what we need. And I'm going to show you guys in just a few minutes the texture. So I hope you were able to hear all that. But so here's the texture that we're looking for. During this part, you're still going to see little bits of butter in there. That is exactly what we are looking for. So don't freak out. Don't think that you needed to melt the butter more or it needed to be at room temperature or any of that. That's exactly what we need. For this next part, if you want to pre-mix all the dry ingredients in a separate mixing bowl and just give them a whisk so that all of them incorporate, you can certainly do that, but I'm showing you exactly how I do it. Sometimes I mix all the dry ingredients, and in my recipes, I'll let you know when you need to do that. For this one, you can just dump everything right in. So again, I'm doing half a batch, so I'm going to need, and I wrote down my recipe here because I couldn't memorize it. I just can't memorize anything. So I'm doing 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. It's very important, again, that when measuring dry ingredients, you use something else to scoop it into your measuring spoon. Now, here's the important part that you guys probably don't see too often. Hi from Trinidad. Hi. So for our measurements, we're doing heaping cups. I don't know if that made sense, but I'm using 1.5 heaping, meaning that it's overboard. It's not right at the 1 cup mark of all-purpose flour. So there goes 1 cup, and I'm doing a half. And again, this is going to be a heaping 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Throw that right in there. Next, let's see. Next, we're going to do the salt, baking soda, and baking powder. Now, this is the part where I also think it's very important to have measuring spoons that have the 1/8 measurement in case you're doing things like this where you're only making a half of batch of a recipe that you saw and it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of something, so you're going to need 1/8. It's important to have a set that has the 1/8. So I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon. Here we go. No, wait, that doesn't look right. Hold on. Okay, I'm doing 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and then 1/8. So 1/4 teaspoon. I'm dumping it right on top of the flour, and then 1/8 of baking soda. Next is my baking powder. And I'm referring to my original because I think as I was transferring this, I wrote it wrong. But I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4. So I know some of you have asked if you can have recipes before. You definitely can. You just need to be very careful of paying attention to how you're halving it, or, you know, it's usually easier to either make the whole batch and save it, or to make half instead of like 1/3 of the batch, which is just gonna throw you off. I'm adding in 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to give it a mix. Here we go. Do you ever make stuffed cookies? I'm trying to master a recipe on that. So actually, before you came into the live, we actually did, I say we like if there was so many of us here. Well, where was I going? Yes, so once we master this recipe, I have a frozen one, so I'll show it to you. But hold that thought. So can you tell that my husband has been eating these? So this is a frozen one that I experimented with. So the technique that we're using today, or the recipe, gives you chubby cookies or cookies that are thicker. So once we're able to master this recipe, maybe for the next live, depending on what y'all want, we're going to try a similar recipe, which would be basically the same base as this, but we can add in different mix-ins if we wanted to make like something I want to make for you guys probably in the next live is a circus or an animal circus cookie. So something with the same base of the chocolate chip cookie, but not chocolate chips, maybe like sprinkles and those little circus animal cookies in the center. So I will definitely keep you guys posted. If I do make an experimental batch, I'll post those pictures. Is regular baking powder or aluminum free? Let's see. I don't know. If any of you guys know the answer to that question, this is the baking powder that I'm using. I usually use whatever is available at the store. But if any of you guys know, this is from, I think this is from Aldi. So if anybody can answer that question, please put it in the comments. Let's put our subject back in the freezer. Okay, so at this point is when we're going to add in our chips. And as you can see, this recipe is totally easy. Depending on what kind of business you're doing or what kind of sales you're having, you can definitely incorporate a cookie like this, or like at a family barbecue, a socially distanced barbecue. You can definitely incorporate these, and you don't have to use semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can add any chips that you want. So I'm adding in 1 cup, and at this point, I'm also going to add in my ½ tablespoon of vanilla. Oops. Okay. This is the vanilla that I use. You can get it on Amazon, 2 of these bottles for $30, I think. I got this one from Mexico a few years ago. My sister's mother-in-law gave it to me. Okay, so we're going to add in 1 cup of chocolate chips and give it another light mix. Okay, here we go. And we're basically done with this part. Now, last night I went ahead and pre-froze some of these so I could actually show you the process of how this is done. But I don't know, have any of you tried that spatula that has the little crack in the center? I feel like I would like it because I'm one of those people that I just don't like it when there's dough left in this little mixing paddle. Anyway, okay, I think I got everything. So our finished dough should look like this, okay? And now what I'm going to do is, this is the part where if you made the entire batch and you wanted to bake half of it and save the other half, this is the part that you're going to need to remember and the part that is important. So I'm moving that. I'm moving this and just making some space. Where is it? Okay. So for this next part, this is what we're going to do. If you don't have freezer wrap, you can just use the simple, the cling wrap, the plastic wrap that you have at home. Or if you also have Ziploc bags that are freezer friendly or just regular Ziploc bags, you can use that. Who else is watching had work like I am? I just wanted to say, because of your videos, I started making and selling the sugar cookies and selling them like hotcakes. That's amazing. Wow, I'm so happy when you guys tell me stuff like that because I move a lot. And at some point, I used to have a business where I used to do private orders for clients. But since I've been moving, I've been trying to, I don't know, just do something different with my business, which I decided that I like to teach and just share what I've learned. And it makes me really happy to see that you guys come into the live, you watch it, and then you use it in your business and that it's going good for you. So I'm very, very happy for you. Okay, so we're going to cut a piece of parchment paper, and let me just lower you guys a tiny bit so you can see. There. Okay, so for this part, I like to use a scoop. This is an RBI brand. I think I got this at Home Goods or Marshalls a long time ago, but I believe this is a 1/4 cup measurement. I will try to find this and I will link it in the description because I'm not quite sure what size this is, but you can definitely find these at your local restaurant store or like at a Marshalls or Ross. So if you see the ones that have the sets of 3, it's the one in the center because this one's a slightly bigger. So when we do the filled cookies, we'll probably use this one. Okay. So this is the part where we're going to scoop these little cookies. There we go. Just like this. You don't have to separate them too much because we're going to freeze these. So eventually they're going to hold their shape. And the difference in this recipe from the one that I've shared with you before is that the other recipe, you only needed to refrigerate or freeze for either 15 or 30 minutes. This one I recommend freezing for approximately 30 to 40 minutes. I actually froze them for about 2 hours before I baked them. So the longer you can freeze them, the better the texture of the cookie will be. But if you want it quick, you could definitely bake these a lot faster. And when I made these last week, I actually scooped all of these little things into a little tub. So if you wanted to do that, you could, but I just feel like they keep a little bit fresher when we wrap them into these little parchment paper bags or bundles, and then with freezer wrap, and then either into an airtight container or a Ziploc bag, or a combination of both. So towards the bottom, you'll always find that there's some dough that didn't really get enough chocolate chips. You can always add those in later. Okay, so once we finish scooping all of these in, and I'm gonna just scoop that tiny little piece in there. You guys always also ask about these little spatulas, the pink ones. I got these about, I think like 4 years ago at Hobby Lobby. I got 3 for $2.50, I think. And they're my favorite thing in the world because they're tiny. And I don't know what it is about me, but I hate it when there's dough in there and I could use it. You know, I don't like to waste it. But anyway, that was TMI. So I'm putting this aside. Now that we have our little bundle like this, we're just going to cover these pieces. You can definitely do this a lot neater, but for now this works. So now we're going to take our freezer wrap And remember that you can separate, like if you're going to freeze it and bake it that same day, you don't need to do all these steps because you're going to just throw it in the freezer. The freezer wrap part is if you want to save it for next month or 2 months from now, because this dough will last you between 6 to 12 months. It really depends on the type of ingredients that you use, how you store it. I've stored it in the refrigerator, my original cookie dough recipe, for approximately 6 months, and it still tasted like I made the batter the day before. So just test out the length that it will last in your refrigerator, in your freezer. But it's usually about 6 to 9 months. Okay, so I'm technically saving these for a few months from now. And if you guys want, we can do like an update, or I can not tag, but I'll share it on my Instagram and my YouTube channel when I bake these in a few months. So I'm sticking these into a little Ziploc bag. I'm squeezing out any air, and make sure to write the date and throw it into your freezer. Now, I mentioned that I made a batch yesterday just to make sure that the measurements that I gave you were correct. So this is my batch, and when you go to bake these cookies later, you don't need to thaw the cookie dough. You literally we're just gonna grab our little cookie balls, and I'm just gonna place them onto my baking sheet as they are. I'm not going to thaw them. I'm just going to place them here. And as you can see, whatever shape you freeze them in, that's the shape that they're going to bake in. So I never like do them into perfect balls because I just like how they bake when they're freshly scooped. So it just depends on your preference. If you wanted to roll them, you can, but you don't have to. So I'm wrapping these as graciously as I can to place them back in the bag. And if you wanted to, you could also place this bag into an airtight container for extra freshness. So another tip that I told you guys before is that anytime you wanted to take pictures for your Instagram, or you're an awesome teacher, thank you, that means a lot, really. Sometimes I feel like I talk too much or I digress. So a tip is, so that you can get a better photo for your Instagram or a more aesthetic look, just add about 2 or 3 chips at the top of your cookie, because if you'll notice, most of them are inside the dough, and this will give you a slightly better photo. There we go. So I'm putting these in, and I'm only baking 2 because it's only me and my husband, and I don't want to eat the entire thing, the entire 12 cookies. So I'm putting these in the microwave. Girl, maybe we should do a microwave cookie. I'm putting these in the oven for 15 minutes on the middle rack, frozen. These are frozen, okay? And there we go. And I'm doing my kitchen timer, 15 minutes. Okay. Now, and this is the part where I wanted to discuss a few things with you, and I'll go back and read some of your questions because I did see a few questions. Let's see. So, let me just put this up a little bit higher. Okay. So hi everyone. I don't know if there's any Instagram questions, but let me come back here. Hello from Texas. Hi. Who else is watching at work? I already read that one. Thank you so much. I got those spatulas from Hobby Lobby too. I love them. They're amazing. What size scooper do you use? I missed that part of when you said it. That's what I do with the chocolate chips too. Yes. The size of the scooper, I bought it so long ago, but I'm going to do some research for you guys. I believe it's a 1/4 cup scoop. I know it's the scoop that I use for cupcakes, so I'm going to do some research to give you the exact measurement. But for example, when you go to the restaurant store, you'll notice that sometimes they have a pack of 3. It's the one in the center. Maybe in 2 weeks or in a few weeks, we can do a stuffed cookie and we'll use the larger scoop. There's a lot of stuffed cookies that I've seen on Instagram and Facebook, and I've always wanted to try making a cookie like that. But in case, I don't know if you guys have made my other chocolate chip cookie dough recipe, I felt like it was too flat. Like when you would bake it, they would bake too flat. And this is the exact consistency that I wanted so that we could try the stuffed cookies. So maybe next time we'll try with this. But here are some important things for you to remember. So the original recipe and all of this will be available for playback, and I'll also write it in the description box. I am working on fixing my website at the moment. So once that's available, I'll make sure to share that with you guys. But the original recipe yields 24 to 26. And I wrote here 1/4 cup cookies. They're approximately 2.5 inches in diameter. So you get approximately like 2 dozens and then 2 cookies extra. For storage, I did write a few notes, and like I mentioned earlier, as far as shelf life and storage, it's going to depend how you store your cookies, how long they last. I hope that made sense. So we went over using the parchment paper, the freezer wrap, the Ziploc bags, and the what is this called? I just had, like, my brain just went blank. Anybody, like anyone that wants to speak up and help me can help me. What is this called? An airtight container. I always have a hard time remembering that. An airtight container. So let's backtrack. We finished our cookie dough and we want to freeze these for, let's see, what time is it right now? Right now is 1:30, and we're going to a party at 8. So we want to freeze our cookies until 5 because that's when we want to bake them so we can get ready. So you wouldn't need to do all of this and do the parchment paper, the freezer paper, the Ziploc bag. What you want to do is, if you're going to use the cookie dough that same day that you made it, you're going to scoop your dough into an airtight container. And it doesn't matter if the balls just flop onto each other. That's completely fine. Then you're going to seal it, and you're going to put it in your freezer, and you're going to let them freeze until 5 p.m. or at least 1 hour. At least 1 hour so that you can get the same consistency as the cookies that you're going to see in a few minutes. So if you made the dough the same day and you want to use it the same day, make sure that it is frozen at least for 1 hour. Otherwise, the consistency of how your cookie bakes might change a little bit. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, you can make as many batches as you want of these cookies and store them for up to in your fridge. So let's say that you made the dough today, right? And your party is on the weekend or next week or something. If you store these in the refrigerator like this, or like this with the freezing method and the freezer wrap, in the refrigerator, in the bottom part, your cookies only have a shelf life between 3 to 5 days. And I say between 3 to 5 days because it depends on where you bought your eggs. Are they farm raised eggs? Are there eggs that you got at the store? How old are the eggs? We used room temperature eggs. What else does our cookie have? Basically, in cookie dough, the only thing that can make it go bad is the eggs. So that's why it's so time sensitive when it's on the bottom of the fridge. So when it's at the bottom, you only have 3 to 5 days to bake, to make your dough, bake them, and eat them, basically. Well, you can eat them whenever you want. So ignore that part. You can eat your cookies whenever you want. Hi from Bella and I. Oh, hi. My big sister is watching my mom and my little sister. That's what I do with the chocolate chips too. An airtight container, yes. So this is an airtight container. In the freezer. So let's say that you made your dough and you wanted to freeze 3 or 4 batches of these. You're going to do the parchment paper, the freezer wrap, and the airtight container, or the parchment paper, the freezer wrap, the Ziploc bag, and the airtight container. So when you're freezing these for a long time, you're not just going to throw the naked balls, not naked balls, like that sounded so weird. The naked cookie dough balls or the cookie dough. Okay, let me backtrack. You're not just going to throw the cookie dough pre-scooped into this container and into your freezer, because what happens is that although it's an airtight container, you're going to start seeing that it forms a little bit of ice crystals. If it's too old, it's going to start doing that, and then your cookies are going to taste like refrigerator. That sounds weird, but I don't know if you've ever had anything that tastes like refrigerator. It just tastes old. It tastes funny. So make sure that when you're freezing these and you want them to last a long time, like 6 to 12 months, that you use parchment paper, freezer wrap, and a Ziploc bag or an airtight container so that you can protect your cookie dough as much as you can from the freezer. Hola, un gusto verte. Hola, Erika. LOL, naked balls. That just came out so weird. I really didn't intend to say that. If that offended anybody, I'm so sorry. But what do we call them? Because it's not just cookie dough. It's pre-measured cookie dough, pre-scooped cookie dough. I'm going to just say that from now on. You try saying pre-scooped cookie dough. That's what we're going to call it. So those are my tips on storing. Another thing that I recommend, and I think oh no, here it is. So another thing that I recommend when baking is that you have available measuring spoons that go. So these gold ones I got at Target. I think they were like, I don't know, $7 for the set. The one in the silver is from another set. But basically, what I like about these is that the silver set had an 1/8 teaspoon measure. The gold set comes with a 1/2 tablespoon measure. So like we mentioned in the beginning, you can have a recipe like make half of it, but you have to be very careful when converting or when having the ingredients, because a lot of the times what I used to do before is if I needed an 1/8 of a teaspoon, I would just like pretend like I knew what 1/2 of the 1/4 teaspoon was. And when following recipes, it's very important that you read the recipe and you follow it as the person shows it to you or as it is written. For example, if it says 1 heaping tablespoon, make sure it's 1 heaping tablespoon and not a tablespoon that is very clearly measured, because obviously you're going to get different results than the person that is sharing it with you. What else? Somebody asked about the baking powder being aluminum free, I think. I looked at this slightly, the aluminum free baking powder, about a month ago. I don't know if this one is aluminum free, but maybe somebody could Google that. I don't know how to tell. I don't know if it would just say that it's aluminum free. But if somebody can Google that, this is the Aldi Baker's Corner baking powder. If somebody can see if that is aluminum free, because I'm curious. And I'm using my laptop now and my phone, so I can't Google that. What other tip do I have for you? Oh, as far as ingredients, for me, I use what is available. So whenever I was living in Pittsburgh, I just used, Aldi was very close to me, so I just used to buy ingredients from Aldi. I know that some people prefer to use brand name ingredients, but I'm a big believer of using what you have, like make what you can with what you have where you are. I think that's a famous quote. So don't quote me on that. I did not come up with that. But I'm a strong believer of using what you have available. I'm going to sip a little bit of water. Like for example here, on my other batch, I used Great Value chocolate chips. These were on sale, the Hershey's ones, like 2 days ago, so I bought those. One thing that I will tell you that does make a difference in baking is flavorings. So the brands of the flavorings, at least for me, this is my opinion, the brands and the authenticity of the flavorings that you're using. For example, vanilla and imitation vanilla will give you a slightly different taste and a slightly different color in your end product. A lot of you ask about what vanilla I use. It's called La Vencedora Vainilla Pura. Vainilla natural, el más rico sabor de los sabores, blah, blah, blah. So this one was brought to me from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. But the people that make this also sell it on Amazon. One of my subscribers, and she's a follower, her Instagram name is, I forgot, I think she recently changed it, but her name is Desi. She's based in Florida, I think. She bought these, and she bought the one from the listing. There's like several different listings, but there's a listing that has 2 of these bottles for $35, and I think they are prime. So don't quote me on that, but for good vanilla, I think it's a pretty good price. I've had this bottle for approximately, I want to say 3 years, and I do a lot of baking, and it's lasted me a while. So I recommend La Vencedora. You can find it on Amazon, and this will also be linked in the description. So Vero says, do you ever recommend imitation vanilla for any desserts, or solely stick to pure if you can? So here's what I think. Here are my thoughts. I know that there's a few bakers out there, or, you know, like opinions vary on what you should use when. And I think if you're doing very, I don't know, I don't want to say fancy, because that's not what I'm trying to say, but let me backtrack. So I basically use both. When I did my first test batch, I used the imitation vanilla, and it was fine. When I did this batch, I did La Vencedora, and it was fine. Let me take these out, and I'll come back to that question. Cookies. Okay, here they are, fresh out of the oven. And let me turn off the oven. Okay. So going back to your question, and somebody please remind me that that is hot so that I don't get near it. But going back to the question of should you always use pure vanilla or could you use imitation? I say go with whatever benefits your business. So I don't think that it's anybody's right to tell someone you should only use pure vanilla because it's the moral thing to do when you're baking from scratch. I don't believe that. I believe that if it's more profitable for you to use imitation vanilla in all of your desserts, then do it. Even if it's a scratch-made vanilla cake and this is all you have, this is all that your margins of profit afford, use it, girl. I have like 2 bottles of these. I probably reach more for this than I do for this. That being said, if you're able to, within your pricing and within the scope of what you're selling, if you're able to afford using pure vanilla, then go ahead and use pure vanilla when possible. But I'm a big advocate for, yes, pure is for special occasions, basically. So the only time that I really, and like I said, I've had this for like 3 years. Some people prefer just using pure. This is my preferred option, but I use it when I bake for you guys. I use it when I bake desserts that I'm going to give to people. But when it's for me or when it's like to mass produce something, if I'm going to make a lot of something, I just use imitation vanilla, to be honest with you. I don't know what this little icon is over here. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on pure vanilla and using imitation vanilla. I say go with whatever benefits your business the most. Obviously, if this is the last time I bought one of these at the store, I think one of these used to go for $5 at Sam's. It might have changed. It might be like $8 now. And this runs you like $15 or $20 a bottle. So, I mean, the math is simple. And measurement, this one is 32 ounces. This one has 31 ounces. So when it comes to making a profit in your business and when it comes to making money, always go with what benefits the scope of the profit the most. I'm also not going to say like use the cheapest ingredients. Tampoco, right? There has to be a balance. You have to test out what ingredients work for you, what ingredients don't. Like, for example, as far as granulated sugar goes, I forgot what the brand is called, but it's like the one in the little yellow bag, the granulated sugar. It's not Dixie Crystals. It's I forgot what it's called. If somebody knows what that brand is called, it's like the granulated sugar that has like the little pastel yellow, like this covering. That sugar is a lot finer than the store brand sugars that you buy. Next time, do a comparison. Buy a bag of the yellow sugar. It's not Dixie Crystals. What is it? I forgot what it's called. Buy one of the expensive brands and then buy the off brand that they sell at the store or the store brand. And you'll notice a slight difference as to the size of the granules. So if you're doing things like Domino, yes, that one. So if you buy Domino versus the store brand, you're going to notice a difference in how big the granules are. And sometimes when you're baking, like for example, sugar cookies, and you don't want the crystals to show too much in your dough, I would just go with Domino versus the store brand. But if the store brand is all you have, then you got to make it work. I think I went on a rant there. But you guys get what I'm trying to say. And if you want me to do a video on business and basically like using what you can where you are type of thing, I can certainly do that. But for now, let's see. Did I answer all those questions? what is this button? It says show more. Hello, naked balls. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? We're here on Instagram, on YouTube. Thanks to everybody that is here. I appreciate you guys so much. Raw cookie dough. Tupperware, yes. I'm sorry, I meant to type hello first. Okay, what vanilla extract do you recommend? So as I was telling them here, this is the one I like to use for the fancy occasions, and the one that I have mostly all the time is La Vencedora from Amazon, but I also use imitation vanilla. So it just depends on your budget of your baking products or the budget that you're willing to spend. This one I think is twice the price or 3 times the price. On Amazon, you can get 2 of these bottles for $35. Do you have a vanilla cake recipe? I do here on the channel, on my YouTube channel. I think it's called Soft Vanilla Cake Recipe or Moist. Oh, it's called Moist Vanilla Cake Recipe. On my YouTube channel. So if you Google or if you search on YouTube moist vanilla cake recipe, very cherry cakes, you'll find it. Okay, so let me show you guys these cookies because I think I've talked a lot, but hopefully these are, yeah, they look done enough. So you see how chunky that is? So if you've made our other recipe, and that's how toasty it gets on the bottom. If you can see here, it gets a little bit, not burnt, but golden. What is the color that I'm looking for? It gets a little toasty at the top. A little toasty there. I don't know if you can see the little light brown, but that's how it ends up looking. Me gustaría mandarte uno de mis esencias de Ma Baker and Chef. Oh, Erika, he escuchado de esa marca de Ma Baker and Chef. Una de mis amigas, creo que es ambassador de ese programa. Creo que mi amiga vive en Houston, pero no estoy segura. Si quieres, Erika, mándame un DM en mi Instagram, Berry Cherry Cakes, para mandarte mi dirección, si me la quieres mandar para probarla. I want to try cakes now in addition to the cookies. Golden, yes. So this is golden. Here. So I'm going to break this in half so you can see the insides. You see that? So I don't know if you guys want to see that again. But I'm obsessed with this recipe and I'm going to try it. They're so good, you guys. So I want to just reiterate the importance of freezing these cookies for at least 1 hour. I recommend freezing them for approximately 1 to 2 hours. You don't want to eat them the same day. Mine were frozen. Yesterday when I did my test run, I made my batch at 4 and then I baked them at 6:30 and they turned out perfect. So make sure that your dough is frozen and it goes from frozen straight into the oven. That's how you're going to achieve a consistency like this. I'm just going to show you guys one more time. And if you made this dough and you bake it tonight, make sure to tag me on Facebook, Instagram, come and leave me a comment here. Show me your pictures on how they came out. And I also want you guys to comment in this video or on my YouTube channel or anywhere on my Instagram what videos you want to see next when we come on live. Maybe next time we can do a stuffed cookie like we mentioned before. So make sure to let me know what you guys want to see in the next live. Maybe it'll be not next Friday, but the following. So we'll probably start doing these every 2 weeks and then maybe do it more often as we see, you know, that this, you know, that you guys want to see more recipes. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for welcoming me back to my own channel because I've been gone for a while. Thanks for coming. Thanks for commenting, for sharing. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for trying my recipes. It makes me so happy that you guys watch and try it and that your business is thriving while using my recipes. And Erika, mándame un DM en Instagram para mandarte mi dirección para que me mandes una muestra de la esencia de Ma Baker and Chef. And I will see you guys on my Instagram every day. Thank you so much and have a good weekend. Bye.